In the same vein of the 3 R's, one of the questions I was asking a group of coaches that I used to lead in 2021 was what are the 4 to 5 things that every mega agent should have in their toolkit of value? Meaning, if every mega agent was tasked with creating a value toolkit that they took into the market, what would those 4 to 5 things have to be? And so we masterminded on this. We went back and forth, but eventually we landed on 5 things that I want to share with you today. I've also got a worksheet on this. It's already in the chat box, so feel free. It's the bottom link to click on that, download it. It's an exercise, Rainmakers. I would really encourage you to go through with your team because it will help you build that toolkit. But as you all know, one of my favorite phrases that I've ever created is you're not call reluctant, you're value deficient. And so with the value toolkit, the goal is to engineer value that you're excited about, that you want to share with people so that you can ultimately gain market share, build relationships, and hit your goals. So here's the value toolkit that we created, the 5 things that we believe that each and every one of you should ultimately have. And so the first one, as you can see, is teaching. So all of you, whether you're a Rainmaker, operations, you could be an agent on the team, ISA, all of you have the opportunity to teach. And you can teach to agents, meaning it's a course that you teach to agents outside of your area, thus increasing your agent-to-agent referrals. But really what I mean here is what is something that you could teach to your local market that would create additional opportunities and additional relationships for you. So a couple of examples of this, like if you're passionate about getting out of debt, then getting certified in Dave Ramsey's financial piece and teaching that maybe first to your team, and then if you're involved in your church or you're offering it as a course to your database, that's a great example. For some of you, maybe you're really passionate about Quantum Leap, right? I know a number of you are Quantum Leap instructors, so teaching Quantum Leap in your local area to high school and college kids. The MREI, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, teaching investment workshops to people in your area, if that's something you're really passionate about. We used to encourage people to get certified in the one thing because you could teach that to business owners, both small and large. And the idea here is to put you into relationship either with people you don't already have or to enhance the existing relationships that you have in your database. But if you click on that worksheet, the one that I put into the chat box, you'll see there are some questions that it asks you. And the thing I really want you to get or to consider when picking what you might teach is make sure that it's something you're living and something that you're passionate about. Don't pick something that you think that the audience would want. Pick something that you really are passionate about, because that passion will come through. Second thing is events. So events can be, I think if we're looking at this, they can kind of be sectioned into 3 things. One is having macro events for your database or your community. So that might be Kelly Allen's team did this last month or the month before, where they rented out a oh, you're not seeing it. It's right here. Let me grab it again and post it in the chat box. There. You guys click on that. Does that work? But macro events, renting out a movie theater, renting a movie or for a specific movie. I think they did Top Gun. My all-time favorite macro event is from a guy named Alan Strange. He's actually in Denver. He's not a coaching client of mine. He's a MAPS coach. But every year he buys a whole bunch of Girl Scout cookies. And so obviously he gets a lot of goodwill from that, buying Girl Scout cookies from the Girl Scouts. And then he rents out a brewery and he has a Girl Scout cookie and beer tasting event. And I don't know why, I just love that. I think it's so great. And so that's an example of a macro event. Micro events, Meg Dady, who's probably on here from Chicago, hosts these micro events. One of my favorites was when she hired a sleep coach and had the sleep coach come in and talk to a group of women that were in her database. So that's kind of an example of a micro event. And then you have events that you can tag onto, like Mary Cheatham King in her area. There's this huge fishing tournament every year. It's called the Big Rock. And they get a booth and have a presence at that event. So they're tagging on to an existing event. But when we think about your value toolkit, we should definitely be nailing the events section, and not only in person, but keep in mind, there are, the call in to win, which Tony Baroni's team and Brendan Bardick's team have really taken off with. There's the opt-in, which is the same thing, except they don't have to call in, they just fill out a form or text. And then there's the come in, which is the reverse pop by, when they come in and pick something up. So when you're in that event space, there's all kinds of options. I would invite you to consider going deep before you go wide, meaning pick just a few key events and really nail those before trying to do them all. But events should definitely be part of your, they should definitely be part of your value toolkit. The next one, as you can see, is your network. Now, your network is, I think, two things. The bigger of them is, if I buy or sell a home with you, I would love for each and every one of you to hand me your version of Angie's List. And Gary said this at Mega Camp or Family Reunion a couple of years ago, that he wanted all of us to start thinking of our businesses as property managers, meaning if somebody buys a home from you, that you're essentially the manager of that property. So if that person needs anything related to the home, that could be an electrician, a landscaper, a roofer, somebody to remodel the kitchen, that you are their first call. So that's one. Another one is, if you're new to the area, for example, all of you should have a network of professionals that you refer people to. I remember when we moved to our first area, or this area, one of the hardest things that we didn't consider was establishing care at doctor's offices. We didn't do that from the beginning. Then our kid gets sick and we're trying to get an appointment, and we end up at one of those crappy urgent care centers with like students that are PAs as the attending physicians. Attorneys, accountants, but think of your network as something that you need to leverage. I'll never forget one of my original mentors, Shannon Steer. She had this thing called Shannon's List, and it was the top 50 professionals in the Kansas City area. And she had a rule. It was really easy, or it was really hard for a professional to get on the list, and it was really easy to get off of it. So if she was referring you or handing that list out to her clients, that her clients were taken care of, that they were special. And she really monitored that and did a good job of making sure that the people, the vendors on that list were living up to her standards. So really nailing that network piece is important. The other one, as you can see, local expert. So what do I mean by local expert? One of the key skills that we should all be nailing right now are market education conversations. We want people getting their information from us. Last night, I was watching a guy on Facebook that I've known for a long time. He's a really nice dude, but he sells like 8 houses a year and has for the last 10 years, right? He barely hangs on. And he's putting all this crap out on Facebook about how he's predicting a buyer's market in 12 months and blah, blah, blah. And not everybody, a lot of people were on there commenting, and I'm reading the comments, and it's like, this guy doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, and he's the authority. This is the one that people are listening to. He sells 8 houses a year, right? And so in the absence of real intelligence, people will listen to the loudest idiot. In the absence of real intelligence, people will listen to the loudest idiot, which is what's happening there. And so local expert means that you are monthly getting together with your team. You are creating, you're downloading, interpreting the market. You're getting very clear on what it's doing, both in the past, the present, and what we believe to be the future. And then you're communicating that to your local market. You guys, I know this to be true because I've been talking to your team members. They don't know the market. They don't know it. When I ask them what are the 3 types of markets, they don't know that answer. And when I ask them what's the unit of measurement that you use to determine if we're in a seller's balance or buyer's market, they don't know the answer. And then when I ask them what type of a market is your market in, they don't know the answer. So if you're not drilling down on this, someone in your neighborhood or area is, and they will win, because the market education conversation is a key skill that you have to nail. And in the absence of real intelligence, they will listen to the loudest idiot. And unfortunately, in our industry, there's a lot of them. So the last thing is community cause. Community cause is something that you're passionate about. Now, this gives you an opportunity to do one of two things. You can create one, right? A number of you, Josh Anderson's a good example of this, have a 501(c), which is a non-for-profit that you've got set up that you siphon money into, and then you can choose how that money gets used inside of your local community. Others of you are tagging on to something. Maybe that's Habitat for Humanity. I know one client that I have is very passionate about keeping people out of human trafficking and supplying resources for the survivors of that of human trafficking. So what is it that you're passionate about that you can align around or create that would give you a voice inside of the community? So again, all of this is in the worksheet. All of this is something that I would invite you and your team to sit down and work through. You might need roughly 2 hours to do that. Obviously, if there is any changes, updates, things that you would like to see added to the worksheet, I'm all ears and would love to know that. But when we're looking to overcome the call reluctance, it's done through engineering value. And I believe every one of you should have a value toolkit that's made up of those 5 things: teaching, events, network, local expert, and then community cause.